What up, everyone? How's it going? Man, I'm super pumped up. We have the one, the only Dr. Bitcoin up in here, up in the live show, just to teach us all about Bitcoin. So, Dr. Bitcoin, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. I really appreciate it. I'm
Now,
looking forward to it.
you have to share with us what's up with being anonymous. What's up with being, wearing a mask? I feel like it's part of the whole crypto theme. Can you explain that a bit to us?
Oh, this? No,
Yeah.
I was actually getting ready for bed. These are my pajamas. I usually I sleep like this at night, and I was just kind of getting ready for bed. I sleep with the mask and everything.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, it's a pretty, it's an understandable question. I mean, the reason why I'm doing this is basically I'd like to show solidarity with Satoshi Nakamoto, the founder, the creator, he, she, they, whoever the heck they are, for bringing this. They brought this technology into the world, and Bitcoin cryptocurrency is all about anonymity, and I'm just showing solidarity, just trying to pay homage to Satoshi Nakamoto. Yeah.
Ooh, man, I love it. This is I can't wait to dive into this. But you know what? I feel like I'm a newbie into crypto. I have some crypto. I've had some crypto stolen from me. It's been a long story. But can you explain to us what is cryptocurrency? What is Bitcoin?
Yeah, sure, sure. Well, I look at Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as sort of all one big thing, right? It started with Bitcoin, obviously that was the original cryptocurrency, but basically what it is technology that lives on something called the blockchain, which is a way of taking information and spreading it out amongst a lot of different computers. That's what we call decentralization. And it lets us share information in a way that is censorship resistant. The reason why I say censorship resistant is if you have information on one computer, it could easily be attacked. But if
Right.
it's on thousands of computers, it's decentralized, it's spread out, and it's a lot easier to, take down, attack, sue, uh, you name it. So really, it's a way of transferring value and information in a decentralized manner, and that's what
Yeah.
cryptocurrency is to me.
Okay. Because like centralized would be like you put your money in the bank and you use your Visa card. But decentralized is everything but that, right?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, you put your money in a bank, right? It's
Yeah.
sitting there. There's a centralized entity that's in control of it. And if
Hmm.
something happens, I mean, yeah, there's good aspects of centralization. If
Yeah.
something happens to your money, there's someone you could talk to who could, try to recover it, or if something's lost. But the negative is if that bank goes down, or maybe there's criminal activity, or someone gets sued, there's a central point, to attack. And that's what makes cryptocurrency so exciting. It's spread out. I mean, it's
Yeah.
hard to attack.
But maybe attack doesn't have to come from an external person. Maybe it's inflation.
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
with inflation the way it is now, 7% was the recent numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, our money, our the thing we work so hard for is being attacked on so many different levels that
Totally.
something has to come along and try to save us from the oppression, from the inflation, from the horrible monetary policies of centralized governments of the world. And
Yeah.
that's what Bitcoin was really born from. That's
Yeah.
what, the 2008 financial crisis is what birthed Bitcoin.
Really? Okay. Well, you know what?
Mhm.
I want to learn, more about this, but I got to hear, like, how did you get into this? Like, I got into it recently, like, the rest of us, but how long have you been in this for?
Yeah, I've been into Bitcoin since about 2013.
Really?
So I actually heard about Bitcoin. I'm a big geek. I'm a huge technology geek, and so it's just it was always a natural fit for me.
Yeah.
And I heard about this thing called Bitcoin and, how it's, you could send money to people. It's kind of like the email of money. And I was really drawn in by the technology, but I'm not going to lie. All right. I
Yeah.
also saw the fact that this thing went from $200 to like $1,000 in a matter of a couple of days, and I wanted in. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not ashamed to admit there's different sides of the coin here, right? There's the technology and there's the idea of making money. And really, you could be into both. There's no shame in that. So about 2013 is when I finally bought my first Bitcoin. And man, things are way different nowadays. Oh, you youngsters got it so easy. You have no clue what things were like in 2013
Well, man,
trying
share
to
with
buy
us, man.
Bitcoin.
Yeah, like how
Uh,
did you buy
so
Bitcoin? Like what did you use?
Oh yeah, yeah. All right. So back then, if you wanted to buy Bitcoin, there was no
Yeah.
Coinbase, there was no Binance, there was no KuCoin, there was nothing like that.
Yeah, yeah.
The number one website for some people, maybe you've heard of it, but number one way to buy Bitcoin back then was something called Mount Gox. All right,
Mount
and
Gox, okay.
Mount Gox, and it was this website owned by someone named Mark Karpellis, and it did something like 80 to 90% of all of the Bitcoin traffic, the buys and the sells. This
Yeah.
one website.
Yeah.
The problem with it was extremely inefficient. So if you wanted to buy Bitcoin, first you had to wire money to Mt. Gox. Then you had to wait. You had to deal with all that nonsense, and then you'd make you'd make your purchase, and then you wait a couple more days, and then finally your Bitcoin would show up in a wallet on Mt. Gox, and then eventually you could withdraw it, which took a couple more days. So the process of buying and selling Bitcoin back then was it was mind blowing how difficult it was and how illiquid the whole thing. I mean, Bitcoin now has a market cap of, I don't know, $800 billion.
Yeah.
Back then it was millions. It was small. Then Mt. Gox,
Yeah.
as a lot of people know, went down. The whole thing was a giant fraud, and there
What?
was corruption, and yep, the whole thing just collapsed.
So did a lot of
And
people like lose their Bitcoin then?
a lot of people lost their Bitcoin. There were lawsuits. The whole thing was situated in Japan,
Yeah.
and so there were lawsuits. It was a giant mess. But that's what brought on the very first crypto winter. And that's a
Right.
term we can get into. That's a term we can get into later.
So
But
that's
yeah,
like a recession, yeah?
that's like the stock market going into a
Yeah.
recession, exactly. But on
Okay.
steroids, because this is cryptocurrency. So
Yeah.
we're not
Man,
talking
there's
like
just
normal.
insane volatility, right?
Uh, yeah, hey man, you got to learn to love the volatility. You got to be a little crazy. You got to be, look, I'm sitting here in a mask with a hoodie on. I mean,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
got to be a little nuts to be in this, to be in cryptocurrency to begin with. But the
Yeah.
volatility is part of the game. It's just kind of, the longer you're in it, the more you kind of. Oh, and speaking of that, and stop me if I'm rambling a little bit too much. But back in the day,
Yeah.
another cryptocurrency that had come out. It was 2014, and I'm hearing about this doggy coin or whatever. It's going to replace Bitcoin. It's the newest thing, and it's called Doge Doggy Coin or whatever. And I wanted to buy some, and it just came out. Right, it was
Yeah.
like day one. I bought it. I had to go and buy it on eBay.
What?
That's the only way I could get it. I spent $9.99 on 10,000 of them,
Yeah.
which at the time I was paying a premium because I had to buy them on eBay. There was no Coinbase. There was none of this stuff. Uh, Nowadays, that $9.99, I guess it would be worth about, I don't know, $10,000, something like that. I don't even know anymore. But yeah, it's crazy times back then. Yeah.
Jeez. Okay, but like tell me, Dr. Bitcoin, tell me, how do you trust after you've lost money on Mount Gox and then you're throwing money on eBay to get this digital money in your email? Like, how is there any trust behind this? Like, you're putting your hard-earned dollars into something that you don't physically see. How do you
Mhm.
how do you marry those two things?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely, that's a good question. And the only way that I think I can answer that is what's one plus one?
2.
Yeah, good. Yeah,
Yeah.
you studied back then.
Yeah.
What's one plus one again?
2.
Two. Yeah, okay. Is it could
Yeah.
it ever be three?
No,
No. Okay. Do you trust math?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you even need to trust math? I mean, does it need to be trusted? It's math, right?
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
plus one is always going to equal two. And so that's why I trust Bitcoin, because the underlying fundamentals is just math. And that's all it is. And I mean, do I trust the US dollar? I mean, I have to. It's the currency of my
Right.
home country. But all I know is that every year, if I make the same amount, I go to the store and I get a lot less, especially these days with all the money printing.
Yeah.
So the reason why I could put my trust into something like Bitcoin. Now, I'm not saying I trust every cryptocurrency on the planet.
Of
I
course.
distrust most of them.
Yeah.
But the time-tested ones, like Bitcoin or yes, Ethereum now, I would say, I trust the math. I trust the code,
Yeah.
and and as long as you kind of have the trust in the encryption and the code behind it, you actually learn that it's one of the most trustworthy forms of stores of value or places to put your money. Now, it doesn't mean that I trust exchanges. It doesn't mean I trust Binance. It doesn't mean which is a cryptocurrency exchange. It
Right.
doesn't mean I trust other people who aren't
Right.
going to try to come in and steal, my assets and stuff like that. That I don't trust. I don't trust that at all. But I trust the code and I trust the math, and that's why I trust Bitcoin.
Fair enough. And I totally respect that. But let's talk about, as dentists, we work hard. A lot of us put money in real estate. We put money into stocks and mutual funds, what have you. How much, if we believe in this technology, which I believe in the technology, how much should we be considering to put into cryptocurrency as a percentage? And this isn't financial advice, of course, but as a young dude, like what would you recommend to a lot of us?
Okay, well, I mean, that's a very individualized question, obviously, and again, also not
Yeah.
financial advice. Obviously, if you listen to me, you're going to lose all your money. That's the only
Me too.
advice I
Don't
give
worry,
you.
man. Me too.
Um, but I think right now, as a good rule of thumb, I think you should put. I'm gonna put a little asterisk here before I say this, but I'm thinking you should put at least 1-2%. If you feel comfortable, maybe 3% of your net worth into. I'm not even going to say cryptocurrency. I'll say something like Bitcoin or Ethereum. I kind of keep those two as a sort of separate. They're kind of above the rest. They've
Yeah.
withstood the test of time.
Yeah.
But really, before you do any of that, you really should research. I mean, I think you should put nothing in until you
Hmm.
sit down and you research and you really learn to understand what you're putting your money into. You know what I mean? Um, Nothing will get you further in cryptocurrency than passion. And
Yeah.
I know they say don't get emotional, don't get them, don't fall in love, don't fall. I've been falling in love with Bitcoin so many times. I think my wife is jealous. Like she's thinks I have like a second wife on the side. I got her and I got Bitcoin, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, yeah, it's not always a good idea to fall in love with a investment, because
Right.
then you make the wrong decision. You could really make emotional decisions. But I think in cryptocurrency, it goes a little bit further, because if you could fall in love with Bitcoin, when Bitcoin drops 80%, hopefully not 90%, but we're down 50% right now from the
Right.
all-time high. We're down 50%.
Yeah.
How many people could stomach seeing 50% of their money just poof, disappear like that, like just evaporate?
Well, if
And
you
like you
believe in
gotta
it, this
love
is
it.
this is a buying
You
opportunity. Am I right?
you got absolutely, you got to believe in it. And
Yeah.
once you get that sort of bug, 1%, 2%, I mean, depends. But
Yeah.
I do think it's a good asset to at least hedge in, because look, if you lose 1% of your net worth, you'll be fine. But
Yeah.
you've seen how much these things can grow. And so Bitcoin, like right now, it's 38, I think it's right now at about 38,000.
American. Yep.
It could be 300,000. I mean, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility,
Mm-hmm.
So you want to be part of that if it does happen.
So I find like, cause I listen to a ton of crypto podcasts. And when I was first starting, my favorite podcast to listen to was, I think it was called Crypto Kathy. And she was like, this is what Bitcoin is. This is what Ethereum is. This is what a blockchain
Hmm.
is. I found that to be super helpful.
Hmm.
But I started buying on this Canadian exchange called Quadriga. And I love sharing my failures. Dude, I lost probably 20. I put in, 15, 20 grand, lost it all. And shit happens. We shouldn't be investing with money we can't want to lose. And that'd probably be worth what, 200 grand today, and whatever, life goes on. But that just goes to prove that not everything is safe. So Dr. Bitcoin, let me ask you, if I'm going to buy Bitcoin, first of all, where do you recommend we buy Bitcoin, and where's a safe place to put it?
Hold that thought. I'm coming right back.
All right, all right, all right. Yeah, for anyone that wants to know, Quadriga stole my money. I'm sure it stole a little bit of yours too if you got into it. But thank goodness that there's a lot more options now. There's I'm sure he'll get into it
Yeah,
here.
so Quadriga is a exchange in Canada, and apparently, if I'm remembering this correctly, the CEO he died, I
Yeah,
believe, in mysterious ways,
yeah,
and and apparently there were hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of cryptocurrency on the exchange,
yeah,
and a lot of the passwords, the passwords and everything to access it were in his head. He didn't write it down. He didn't tell anybody. So when he
ooh,
died,
yeah,
it was gone forever.
yeah,
And the lesson that I okay, so let's review here. Mount Gox, 80% of all the traffic back then went down, and people lost fortunes. And back then, people like had thousands of bitcoins, and it didn't even really cost that much, right? Then you have Quadriga; they went down. Okay, but I've
yeah,
also had money. I've also had money before on an exchange called Cryptsy.
yeah.
All right. The owner of that took everyone's money and bolted. There's also another exchange called BTCE. Total scam, went down. I mean, I could probably think of 5 or 10 more, and I've kind of been playing around with all these. That's why, if you're really into this and you have a sizable amount, what you got to do is you got to get something called a hard wallet.
Yeah,
Okay, this
ledgers.
is what I just want to, yeah, Ledger. I'm in the Ledger gang. And hashtag Ledger Gang. Wow, that's really wow. I'm such a nerd. It's really kind of scary. And basically, what you can do with something like this is you could, when you turn it on, right? You enter. I don't know if you could see it. It might be even a little blurry here,
Yeah, no,
right?
I see it there. Yeah, put in your
But you
passcode.
enter a password. You enter this 3 times wrong, and it wipes the whole device. Okay.
Oh,
But what you could store on this is you could store hundreds, different cryptocurrencies, and it uses the same type of chip that they put in credit cards. So it's extremely secure.
mm-hmm.
And what this is called is it's called a cold storage wallet, which means that a hacker, some North Korean guy, or someone in North Korea or Russia who wants to steal it, he
Yeah,
physically has to have this. And in order to make transactions, he physically has to push buttons on it. So this is digital, this is zeros and ones that represents money on this device, completely untouchable from the internet, which is
right.
another thing about cryptocurrency that's so fascinating to me. I mean, they found a way to take something, and what's amazing is that if you really understand this technology, you could literally handwrite your codes on a piece of paper, and that piece of paper could be your cryptocurrency stored offline on a little piece of paper where no one can get to it. And it's really amazing that you could take something so high tech and make it so low tech. And that to me is just another amazing thing about, the invention. It's just so cool. But
So
that is what I would recommend. Yep.
Dr. Bitcoin, of course, I don't wish this upon anyone, but say that your ledger falls into the wrong hands.
Mm-hmm.
your house burns down, what
Mhm.
happens? What if your codes are in your house, like your piece of paper? What do you do with it? What's a good thing to do?
Okay, so that's a really good question. That's like the number one question. Or like I'll show this to someone and they'll go, yoink, I'm taking it.
Yeah.
it it's not going to do you any good. And the reason why is first you have to know the password to unlock it. Okay.
Yeah.
And again, three attempts and it wipes itself. So fine. But now it's wiped. What am I going to do? Right.
Yeah.
Well, when you originally get a hardware wallet, when you set it up,
Hmm.
it randomly generates 24 words. Okay, so for example, the cat, my pizza, head, snow, man, camera, light, thing, whatever. And those 24 words are called seed words. They're called
Okay.
seed words.
Yeah.
The math behind cryptocurrency is set up so those seed words, those 24 words, is what is used to generate your wallets. Could be one wallet, it could be 1,000 wallets, but the wallets on that device all branch back like the branches of a tree, all the way down to these 24 words. So
Really?
if you have those 24 words,
Yeah.
you have the money, you have the cryptocurrency, regardless of anything else. If that gets lost, stolen, drops in the toilet with my cell phone, if any of these things can happen and you don't even need it. You just need those 24 words. You could store them in your head. I couldn't. My memory's horrible, and after the second word, I'd forget it. But it's just such an amazing thing. You could have $1 billion on there, and if you just have those 24 words, you own that cryptocurrency.
So where would you recommend that we keep these 24 words?
That's a good question. Well, there's a lot to consider, and we are sort of getting into the weeds here a little bit.
Yeah.
I find this stuff fascinating, but this is getting a little bit more to the more techie side of things. I do think that if you are a person that has a reasonable amount of cryptocurrency, but not an
Keep it
insane
on the
amount,
wallet. Yeah.
yeah, but you're probably better off keeping it on Coinbase. These exchanges are pretty good these days. Coinbase is pretty good. There's one called Voyager. And once you take them off the exchange and you put them in a wallet like this, you're responsible for whatever happens to them. Okay. There's no middleman. You lose your 24 words,
Yeah.
there's no customer service to call.
So
All
keep
right.
them safe. Keep them safe. I
But
hear you.
but what I recommend is they actually make metallic backups for your 24 words. They actually make backups that are titanium that you can chisel your 24 words into, just in case your house burns down, and then sometimes it's a good idea to have two copies of the 24 words. You keep them in different states in case one of them has a hurricane. I don't
Yeah.
know. You could get really
You
crazy with
can
this
get
stuff,
crazy. Yeah.
but you
So
should if
so tell me, as someone that wants to get into it, I don't know, one of our listeners here, where would you recommend that we buy Bitcoin or any crypto?
I mean, here's the deal. Like if you're in the United States, I don't think there's any. Well, I'm sure much of the rest of the world as well, but Coinbase seems to be really like the most user friendly, right?
Hmm.
They've been around forever. I mean, Coinbase. I got stories about Coinbase, but going back to I think 2014. So they've been around a long time. They've survived a lot of winters, a lot of volatility. Um, knock on wood, they've never been hacked or anything. And I think the Coinbase is really the best place for most people to start. Now, you can also do something like Robinhood. Okay.
Mm.
Robinhood right now, you can buy stocks and everything, but they let you buy, right now it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Ethereum Classic, which is a crap coin that, I wouldn't recommend buying. And I think Dogecoin. I don't know if I said that. And that's all you can buy. Coinbase has hundreds of coins now. So there's so many more options. And plus, they have more advanced trading. But the difference is Robinhood only lets you buy and sell, right? They are working on a wallet. But for now, if you buy your Bitcoin on Robinhood, you can only buy and sell it. You can't send it to your grandma. You can't send it to your hardware wallet.
Hmm.
Coinbase, you can actually send it to yourself if that's something you want to
And
do.
then you can keep it on the ledger. No, I like that. And that
Yeah.
seems like the safest way to hold your Bitcoin, hold your Ethereum, or whatever it is that you want to buy. But I have a question for you. So now it seems like, we're getting a little bit more secure, and it seems like the whole system is getting a little bit more transparent than it used to be. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would say yeah. I would say things are definitely, you know, it's still early on, but I think we're finally getting to a point where it's mature enough where I can tell people, especially if you're new, don't worry about the ledger. Don't focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your money on Coinbase. I really, it's not a Quadriga. I'm sorry about that, man. That's a
Man,
horrible
shit happens,
situation.
man. I
Yeah,
always, I
yeah, shit
love my
happens,
failures because you learn
Yeah,
so much,
yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah. That's a good way to look at life, man. Failures, you learn a lot more from your failures than your
That's right.
successes. But uh, I would say Coinbase is pretty much at this point where like you could keep your money in there, and um, I'd feel fine. I'd be fine with that. I do think
Yeah.
that Coinbase is pretty reputable at this point.
So say we
Yeah.
buy our Bitcoin, how do we know, like, is this one of those things we should be holding on to forever? Is this one of those things that we're doing it as a short term or a long term investment? How do we know when to buy? How do we know when to sell? What advice do you have for us?
Okay. All right. So I'm a hodler. All right. So
So what's a hodler? What's a
hodling.
hodler?
Okay. A hodler. HODL is actually an acronym. I mean, it wasn't originally started this way, but it's an acronym. HODL. Hold on for dear life. You never, ever, ever, to quote Friday, great movie.
Yep, yep.
You never sell your Bitcoin. Like period. You never sell your Bitcoin. You or Ethereum. You hodl it, and you hodl it through the 50% dumps, and you hodl it through the 80% dumps, and then you get rewarded by the 3,000% pumps. So that's the strategy. You don't buy and sell. You don't. I'm not saying some people are good at trading, and
Right.
I dabble in trading, and we can even talk about that as well. But you hold on, and you just because you know that eventually it's probably going to go up. I mean, it always has. So you just got to deal with the volatility. Um, Lost my train of thought. What were we talking about
We're
there?
talking about when to buy, when to sell, but I know that there's a lot
No,
of
no, no,
people
no.
trading.
Okay, so I'll get to the trading, but
Yeah.
when to buy and when to sell. Okay, I hope I am not going to offend anyone here. I
No.
mean, I might, but when the herd is buying, that's not when you buy. I mean,
That's right.
it's very it's almost too simple, right? When the news is talking about $1 million Bitcoin, how it's going to $1 million next month, when everyone is asking you about it, when CNBC talks about it on every segment, it's probably a good idea to back away.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But now, when it's down 50%, when it's rat poison squared, as old man Warren Buffett would say, okay, that's probably a time where you should start to think about dollar cost averaging in. And I say dollar cost average. You never, ever, ever take all your money and say, I'm going all in on Bitcoin. Because that's the day before the day that it drops another 25%. And
Right.
you say, I should have waited. So the time to buy is now. The time to dollar cost average is now. It's not when it's at its all-time high.
Right.
Okay, because there's always peaks and valleys, always pulls back. Yeah.
No, I love that. But Dr. Bitcoin, I got to ask you, you're seeing Bitcoin at, what is it, 37,000 right now?
Right now it's about 38,000. Yeah.
You're seeing it at 38,000. You bought in when it was less than 1,000.
Hmm.
Do you find it difficult to dollar cost average in still?
No.
Really? Now talk to me about that. Cause mentally, like when one of my stocks, like Nvidia, I bought it, it's up 900%. And I'm like, I'm not buying anymore. Why would I buy more? I bought it when it was like, it was worth nothing, right?
Well, okay, so here's my question for you. So Nvidia, let's use Nvidia as an example.
Yeah.
What is your goal? Okay, when you buy Nvidia, and don't just say to make money, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's always the goal with any investment,
Right.
really.
Yeah.
No one's goal is to lose money. But what is ultimately your goal? Is it just to get as much as buy as much Nvidia as possible? Is it to have 5% of your net worth in Nvidia? I Do you not have a goal? Because that's a good answer too. I mean, people kind of just, I do a lot of it. You fly by the seat of your pants. You buy a little of
Yeah.
this, a little of that. You have, and
I,
I'll tell you why I'm asking this question.
I honestly, I wish I had a goal, but I think the goal is like everyone else's in North America, we just accumulate, right? It's a
Just
game.
accumulate. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was 20. It was 2014, and back then, I was using something called a trading bot, right? So I would set limit orders, and
Hmm.
it was sketchy. It was this trading bot was made by some 13-year-old kid in their basement, and it hooked. It was in the early days of Coinbase, back before Coinbase had things called limit orders. I don't know, the how technical people are
Yeah.
watching this, but limit order, stop limits, all that. It was just simply market buys. You could buy Bitcoin, and that was it. And I was using this trading bot, and I set the trading bot to buy one Bitcoin for $400, right?
Yeah.
I go to sleep at night and I wake up, and mind you, this was a long time ago. I
Of
was,
course.
just getting out of dental school, right? And didn't have a lot of money or anything. And I wake up in the middle of the night. I wake up in the middle of the night, and the trading bot went haywire. It bought 10 Bitcoin for $4,000 total. And
Okay.
I almost had a heart attack. I looked over, my wife's asleep. I'm like, she's gonna kill me. I am dead in the morning. I just bought fake magic internet money, worthless magic internet money for $4,000,
Yeah.
and I panicked. And
I got
so
student loans to pay for. I love it. Okay. Okay.
I got $7 million in student loans. So I panic and I jump online and I go, Coinbase, please, this was a mistake. I bought this Bitcoin, blah blah blah, blah, and reverse the transaction, please, please, please. And so I wake up in the morning and I'm like, thank God they reversed the transaction. I My 10 Bitcoin was taken out of my account and my $4,000 was returned. Horrible, horrible, horrible decision. But hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
But what that did to me was it made a goal where I wanted 10 Bitcoin. I want to get my 10 Bitcoin back. So I don't care whether it's $200, $1,000, $16,000, $38,000, 50, 40,000, 50,000. I have one single. It's just one goal,
That's right.
to get those back, and then more, and then some. But the point is, the goal that I always had is based on accumulation. So
Hmm.
I want 1,000 Nvidia stock.
Right.
But that's with anything. Apple. I want 1,000
Of
shares of
course.
Apple. I want
Yeah.
this. I want that. And so then you start to not worry so much about, the price fluctuation. You just wait for those dips, and then you load up, buy the
Yeah.
dip, keep going.
So would you recommend like, once a month we just buy a little bit of Bitcoin every single time?
Yeah, I think the best way to go about doing it is to dollar cost average. So I
Yeah.
mean that's based on everyone's preference. Now here's the thing. Dollar cost averaging can be done either automatically
Hmm.
or manually. But if you do it automatically, there aren't that many great options that I know of. Now, I know that a lot of people use something called Swan BTC.
Okay.
I don't use it, but it's called Swan BTC. And I think that the fees on that are pretty good. And I know it's mainly used for dollar cost averaging, once a month, buy Bitcoin at 12 o'clock on a Tuesday, or
Yeah.
once a week or whatever. But Coinbase, I mean, they have their own, dollar cost averaging service where you can set up regular interval buys, but the fees are just through the roof. It doesn't make sense to do it that way. So the best way really to do it is just manually and try to
Yeah.
use something like, see, Coinbase has Coinbase,
Hmm.
where the fees are crazy, and then they also have Coinbase Pro, which is bundled together, and the fees are dramatically better. So
Okay.
the
Okay.
best way to dollar cost average is maybe once a week, once a month, whatever works for your budget, and to just do it in the way where you're paying the least amount of fees possible, basically.
Yeah. Cause I think right now I think this goes for anything. Like we're always searching for the big jump. And I think that's where people get caught up in these altcoins or, shit coins, or we're
Hmm.
always looking at
Hmm.
these 0.00003 cent
Yep.
coins that are going to boom up to 10 cents. You've made a 15,000% return overnight. How do
Yep. Yep.
you stay disciplined to just be like, you know what? I don't got time for that shit. I love that you guys are making money. You're on Reddit learning about all this stuff, but you stick to Bitcoin and you stick to, it sounds like you stick to Ethereum as well. How do you,
Yeah. Yeah.
what's your mentality behind that?
No, that's a really good question. I like to think of myself. I'll try to limit the cursing as much as possible, but I do like to. I used to be a Bitcoin maximalist. I didn't even look at Ethereum. To me, it was there's only Bitcoin and everything else is a poop coin, right?
Yeah.
Um, but now I like to think of myself more as a shitcoin minimalist or a poop coin minimalist, meaning I've acknowledged the fact that there are good projects out there. There's Bitcoin, Ethereum, um, you got Cardano, which is it's a respectable
Right.
project. Solana is obviously very popular nowadays with NFTs. You got Luna. I mean, there's a lot of
Right.
projects out there that I do acknowledge now are not just crap. Because back then, 2017, even during the 2017 bubble, right? Most of the projects did nothing.
Right.
It was all garbage. Even Ethereum really didn't do a whole lot. You know, um, but now the times have changed, and I have accepted the fact that Bitcoin is not the only game in town. But I really, really recommend people stay away from like the real poop coins, like the Doge, Elon Musk, to the moon, safe moon, all that
Yeah.
garbage. Because really, a lot of that stuff is just they're scams. I mean, they're out like Safe Moon. That's an out. I mean, I don't even know if you know that one because I don't even know if it's
Yeah.
popular anymore. But that's an outright scam. If you look at the tokenomics, which is a word that basically means like how the economics of the coin are set up, you could see that it was a Ponzi scheme. I mean, it basically requires new money to come in for the old money to be able to get out, and I don't mess around with that stuff. But there's plenty of people that will buy it knowing it's a Ponzi scheme and just say, "Oh, I'm just screwing around, just trying to make some money," and I have no problem with that. But trying to find that next big coin, if you do it enough times, you'll see it's not as fruitful as you'd like it to be. It's a lot of pie in the sky stuff.
It's
That's
like
not to say that you can't get lucky.
it's like that squid coin or the squid game token.
Yeah,
It was
Squid
that
Game.
went
Yeah.
through the roof, and then boom, the
Yep.
developers just ran
Rug
off with
pull.
it, right?
That was
Yeah,
that was the rug pull.
the rug pull.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I
The old
just
rug pull.
I find it so interesting. I find it even in the stock market, we're always trying to find those little tokens in the sand, and you get burned, and it just
Yep.
makes you think like maybe you should stick to Bitcoin and Ethereum. But what other advice do you have for newer investors in Bitcoin? I know it's dropped 40, 50% now. Seems like a better time than
Mhm.
ever to jump into it. We're going to dollar cost average in. We're going to be buying on Coinbase.
Yep.
We're going to not put in everything. We're going to just go in slowly. What other advice would you have for us?
Um, I mean, the number one piece of advice that I would have is to research, is to learn, is to watch a lot. Like, yes, the investment part of it is what people want to know about, and I
Right.
could definitely, I can only tell you my experiences. But the one thing I really recommend is watch a lot of YouTube, do a lot of Googling, go on forums, go on Reddit, understand what this is here. This is the internet, but before your grandmother was on it, before your mother was on it, before your wife was on it, or husband, sorry, don't want to
Yeah.
be sexist, before your spouse was on it, right? That's what this is. And people just don't see it. Some people they're starting to. It used to be nothing but naysayers. It used to be nothing but people saying, "Oh, it's, a scam, it's a Ponzi." I don't hear nearly as much of that anymore as I used to. And that's nice. I'm happy to see that. But do your research, YouTube. I'll shout out a couple of really good YouTube
Yeah.
shows. Crypto Banter is awesome because it's fun.
Yeah.
Um, crypto banter. There's a show called BitBoy, which it's fun. It's educational. Don't take the recommend if they start shilling the next big coin, stay away from that stuff.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time they're just trying to there's some ethical things there, um, but YouTube, do your research, and then once you've done that, then it's time, in my opinion, to start to actually put real money into it.
Yeah.
By dollar cost averaging.
Yeah.
It's not complicated. Don't ever go all in. You don't
No,
want to do that.
I like that. I like that. I find like now, Bitcoin, I first heard about Bitcoin in 2017. And then, you buy a little bit at a time, and then I got scammed. Life goes on. I'm back in. But now I'm hearing a lot of NFTs, Metaverse. I feel like Web3, DeFi, like everything is just blowing up. And I
You want
do
to go? You
feel
want to go one by one? You want to go one by
I
one?
want to go into NFTs because everyone is talking about NFTs. So
Okay.
can you explain to us what an NFT is?
Okay. So NFT, also known as a non-fungible token. And
Yeah.
let's talk about what does that even mean? Fungible, right?
I'd love to know.
Okay. If you give me a dollar, all right, you hand me one US dollar,
Yeah.
and I have $5 in my pocket, and I hand you back. I just put that $1 in my pocket, and I just pull out another dollar and I hand it back to you. You gave me a dollar, I gave you a dollar, and there's $5 in my pocket, right?
Right.
Do you necessarily know if you got back the same dollar you gave me? And sure, you could check the serial number, but let's
Right.
pretend there's no serial numbers on it,
Of
right?
course.
You can't because
No.
every dollar is the same. It's fungible. So something that's fungible is the same. Bitcoin is fungible. You send me a Bitcoin, I send you a Bitcoin. I send it's all the same. Non-fungible tokens, okay, so not fungible,
Right.
is something like the Mona Lisa. There's only one Mona Lisa. Okay, there's not
That's
going to
right.
be another Mona Lisa. It was done one time. You could copy it, you could Xerox it, but that's not the Mona Lisa. All right, so that is not fungible. So what an NFT is let's just use graphics, for example, right? You're a
Right.
graphic designer
That's big
and you
right now.
just
Yeah.
did, yeah, and you just did an amazing digital work of art that's the next, Mona Lisa or whatever, you just send, you want to show that to someone, right? And you show it to them and they screenshot it and they email it to themselves. Okay.
Right.
That is an exact copy. This is not like the Mona Lisa that was painted and someone photocopied it. And now you have an inferior copy. When it
No.
comes to digital stuff, you just made a pixel copy of one thing to another.
Right.
So how do we know now? How do we know what the original one is? We don't, right? So now they can make a copy of that and a copy of that, and it cheapens the artist's work, right? It makes it hard for a digital artist to make money, to survive, to actually have a career in digital art when their work is not is not fun, is non-fungible, right?
Yeah. It's
It's
not
not something that
valuable.
can be copied a million times over. Exactly. So
Right.
what NFTs are is it's a way of tagging the original. So you'll have a digital piece of art, and it embeds a tag. I'm being very
Of
simplified here,
course.
but
Of
it
course. Yeah.
embeds a tag into the artwork, and it uploads that to the blockchain. So it's the Ethereum blockchain, but also there's Solana and there's other blockchains that do NFTs now.
Right.
So now you have a digital piece of art with a stamp, with an encrypted stamp that has been uploaded to the blockchain, which is decentralized.
Right.
So the truth is in the cloud, is in the blockchain, and spread across all these computers.
Yeah.
And now if someone tries to copy your NFT, your JPEG, they don't have that tag. So we now have, for the first time in human history, digital scarcity, actual digital scarcity.
Hmm.
An object that's digital cannot be copied like one to one. It can be copied, but we now know which one the original is.
But the
And that's all an
original is
NFT
still there.
is. And
But
that's what
like,
now an NFT is.
how do you rationalize? Because like I'm looking on Instagram, all my private messages now are people, selling their NFTs and pictures of apes, and these pictures of apes are going for, upwards of what, $1 million, if not more. Like, what is going on here, and how is this happening? Like, how are people rationalizing that?
It's a bubble.
It's a bubble. I would say so.
I mean, you want my honest opinion?
Yeah.
It has all the hallmarks of a bubble, you know? I mean, I'm not I'm not an idealist. Like I'm a pragmatist. I get that the cryptocurrency market, in certain forms, has all the hallmarks of a pretty traditional bubble.
Yeah.
When people are buying these little pixelated, works of art for
Yeah.
millions of dollars, when Justin Bieber just jumps in and buys something for $1 million, right? A little picture or something, that does have the hallmarks of a bubble. But
Yeah.
then there's another thing that people aren't considering. These NFTs are being inflated. The price, is being drastically inflated. And back in the day, when I was in like college and stuff, I would sell things on eBay,
Right.
right? Well, what I would do back then, I mean, what a friend of mine would do,
Yeah.
I just
Your buddy.
not me, a friend,
Yeah.
is they would shill bid, right? So you basically put an item on eBay, and then you
Yeah.
make a couple fake accounts, and all of a sudden you take this item and you put a bunch of shill bids on it to get the price up, so
Yeah.
that some poor schlub comes along and buys it and takes it for a drastically inflated price. And I think a lot of that's probably been going on with NFTs since the beginning.
Yeah.
It's anonymous. I'm sitting here like an idiot wearing all this stuff, to prove a point that a lot of what is done in this space is done behind a veil, of secrecy. So the show bidding for a lot of these NFTs have probably been done, and no one will ever know about it.
No,
And
I
so
hear
that's
that.
I think it's the bubble aspect, the show bidding, and just the mania. But I think when the dust settles, I think a lot of these NFTs are going to be worthless. But I'm not saying they're all going to be worthless.
But
I do think it's an amazing technology.
you're right. And I think it's the technology behind all this crap that's going on that is really going to take off because, from what it sounds like, you can apply NFTs to books, like digital,
Hmm.
actual, like textbooks. You can apply it to music. You can apply it to insurance.
Absolutely.
You can apply it to anything. This is when I see all this happening, I was like, man, what is this crap? And, everyone and their sister is
Well,
putting on an NFT, right? But
well,
the technology is amazing.
yeah, well, the essence underneath it. Look, you got Bitcoin, which is a store of value,
Right.
right? But now you have something like Ethereum, which is really the first smart contract blockchain. And all that means is that a bunch of nerds got together and they found a way to execute transactions in a trustless environment so that you can set a set of rules. Okay,
Right.
are you familiar with like if this then that type of
Of course. Yeah.
programming? Like exactly. So
Yeah.
these smart contracts are just fancy if this then that type of programming.
Right.
So, for example, I could think of, this might be a morbid, example, but let's say I want to put my will, on a block on the blockchain, right?
Yeah.
And I make a smart contract with Ethereum, whatever, and it goes up there. And in the event that, I pass on, um, the parameters that I set up, like maybe like the coroner's office or a hospital, this information would become public, which would trigger the smart contract to execute, thus transferring, let's say the assets are digital assets,
Right.
transferring them to the wallets that are custodied by the people I choose to custody those wallets. And that to me
Ah.
is what the future could be like, where a lot of the things we do can be in smart contract form. You need something like an oracle. An oracle, the number one crypto oracle right now is called Chainlink. It's like the number one. But all an
Right.
oracle does is basically take information and make it usable. So, for example, I can set it so that if, you know, the coroner's office in the not in within this country, you know, pronounces someone. Well, we're getting a little morbid here, but I think you get the point. Is
Yeah.
that there's so much more. There's so many applications for this technology that haven't really even been thought of yet. It's really early on. It's
Yeah.
going to change society. It already has, but not to the extent that it's going to.
Totally. I feel like, we've taken the baby step in with the adoption of crypto by a lot of people, especially during the pandemic. I feel like this is the first couple steps into this massive universe that is
Mhm.
going to be accepted more and more. And that's what gets me excited about it because, the possibilities are really endless. And once they get rid of a lot of this, all the bubble crap and the lack of transparency and the broken exchanges and the theft behind a lot of this stuff, and it becomes more widely accepted and safe, I think it's just gonna continue to grow. Yeah.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir here, man.
Yeah.
I've been an evangelist for many years, and to me, this is the next evolution of society. It's, you hear about the metaverse, right? This
Right.
is a new buzzword now. And
Yeah.
like, for example, like, sorry, come on, right? So we got the VR headset here, right?
What?
And this stuff is tied into cryptocurrency through the metaverse in a way that is possibly going to have more of a profound impact on society than anything. I mean, I could see a time in the not too distant future where our kids are putting these things on and living in the metaverse and going to work and having meetings. And something like flying to Japan to have a meeting with a business partner so you can shake their hand, the kids are going to laugh at us one day. They're going to be like, these old people used to be so inefficient. And
Yeah.
this stuff with it, the metaverse sort of, it ties in virtual reality with digital assets and cryptocurrency, and it's creating this second world that's sort of parallel to the one that we live in, right now.
Yeah.
And it's gonna, man, it's crazy. It's exciting stuff. Like, it really is.
Man, I just find it so
Yeah.
interesting because
I
I
could
think
talk forever
almost,
about this stuff.
well, yeah, but this pandemic needed to happen in order to get adoption of that technology because it made
Totally.
virtual meetings, it made it, accepted. And
Hmm.
that just, that kind of gave me chills as soon as you said that because it was almost leading to
Yeah,
this moment. You know what I mean? That's
absolutely. Like who knew about Zoom? 3 years
exactly.
ago, I didn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and now we're already looking at the next thing. Zoom is already. I'm looking at Zoom going,
It's so
I want to sit
archaic.
in a room and, yeah, and like
Yeah.
shake and virtually shake someone's hand. So
Wow,
it's
man, dude,
crazy. It's crazy
I
times.
could talk to you all day. But Dr.
Yeah,
Bitcoin, thank you so much for gracing us
sure.
with your presence. And I hope to have you back on soon. We can talk about the metaverse. We can talk about so many
Yeah,
different things. But thank you again, Dr. Bitcoin. And I hope to, meet you in the metaverse one day.
thanks for having me. And I'd love to come back. I mean, I barely scratched the surface today. I could talk about this. I could talk to a wall about this stuff all day.
I love
So
your
thanks for
passion,
having
man.
me.
I
And
love it. Yeah.
yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll chat soon, my man. Thank you so much. And we'll be back on again tomorrow. We got another show for you. So thanks, Dr. Bitcoin. We'll see you later, bud.
All right, take
See ya.
care.